So the first thing we're going to do, introduction completed, is we're going to breathe. So sit straight, get yourself straight. And then what you're going to do, we're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 6. And I'll count you through it. And it's helpful if you close your eyes. So you really like fill up your belly, hold it, let it out. And we're going to do that 3 or 4 times. And then I'll explain why we're doing it. Okay, are we ready? Ready? In, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, in for 4, 2, 3, 4, hold for 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You with me? How'd it feel? Good? A little calmer? A little looser? That is something I urge you to do, and I'm going to talk about some other alternatives of that. But whenever I'm freaking out, that's what I do. When I lay down in bed and I go to sleep, that's what I do. It's really something that if you learn how to do it, it's good. You know, what happens is I find sometimes that I'm holding my breath. I don't know if that ever happens to you, and you realize you're holding in all that tension. And it's good physiologically for you, and it's good emotionally for you. So start breathing. Anyway, why are we anxious? Let's talk about like why that happens. And in my view, it's not because we're crazy or there's something wrong with us. It's because we're talented and we're high performers and we care. And so that makes us anxious. We want to do well. And I don't know any of you who I've met who is different from that. My new people, I presume you're exactly the same. It's just something that goes along with the good things about you that make you talented and being a top performer. What's the purpose of anxiety? In caveman days, it kept you from being eaten. It makes you check your work. It makes you go over something. It makes you practice. It makes you check your answers. That's all good, and that's great. But when it flips over to round loop thinking, that's when it goes off the rails. So if you think of it as the good side of anxiety is energy. A lot of people, whatever is good about you is also bad about you. If somebody were to describe me, a ton of energy, but boy, I can get anxious. And so that's something that a lot of us have. And so we have to learn how to let the energy out without making ourselves really anxious. And so that's what we're going to talk about. One of the things that the adage is about being anxious is the things you worry about never happen and the things you never think about do. And so I've always thought that one of the reasons why the things that I worry about don't happen is as long as I'm worrying, everything will go fine. And that's of course not true. That's just, you know, silliness. But the things we don't think about, like, for example, pandemics, those things happen. But if you have the ability to you've got a framework for how you manage it, no matter what comes to you, you're going to be able to manage it. And that's really the biggest thing. So when I thought about this the first time, I thought about what things make you anxious. So something that you planned didn't go well, a project at work, a test, an interview. So you're banging your head against a wall and you're, oh my God, I wish I'd said this differently. I wish I'd done this differently, kind of that sort of a thing. Or something unplanned happens that's negative. Your company suddenly has financial issues, you get a new boss, somebody's sick, those kinds of things. Those can also make you anxious. And I know some of us have dealt with those kinds of issues. Something good happened, and now you've got imposter syndrome. You got hired, but now you're like, oh my God, if they only knew how stupid I was, they wouldn't have hired me. And you go through and you have that in your head. There was a woman I worked with, she was well in her 70s. I think I've mentioned this when I started working with her, who taught me about imposter syndrome. I mean, think about that. Like, she's in her 70s. She came from Washington. She was the general counsel of our company, and she still had imposter syndrome. So it's one of those things that high performers will think about. If they really knew me, they would know that I don't deserve this. And that's insanity. Let me smack it out of your head right now, because you're as good as I think you are. Let's leave it at that. You're better than you think you are, all of you. The other thing that I think really makes people anxious is uncertainty. And boy, oh boy, don't we have a lot of it right now. And you know, if you just knew what was going to happen and you felt like you can control it, everything is better, but that's not real life, unfortunately. So we have to deal with what we have and take it a bite at a time to try to get to the end of it. So there's something called hindsight bias too that I just want to mention. I don't know if any of you have this, but where you think that everything in your past was way more predictable and you knew it was going to happen, and now nothing is predictable. Well, that's just, it's like something in your head. It's not really true. It was unpredictable back then, but you tend to look back on it and say, oh, everything was easy then. I knew what I was doing. This is more difficult. So be aware of it and reject it, because it's just not really what the reality is. So how do we express anxiety? The world is ending, catastrophizing. Yesterday, I talked to my mentor who has been mentoring me since I've been in my 20s, which was a really long time ago. And we always had this discussion about, we were 10 minutes away from living in a cardboard box. Like, no matter what, it would never get better, blah, blah, blah. And here we both are. And when we talk about it, and particularly when I'm with him, and I've worked with him in different capacities for 40 years, you realize sometimes really the world probably isn't ending. You might have to feel that feel, as we say, but you don't, it's probably not really ending. And even through all this, it's going to be okay. Something called rumination, which particularly when people get anxious, you go around and around and around in a loop, and you grind and grind and grind. And if you feel like give me a show of hands if you've ever done that, it's what, yeah, okay, right? And you can't get out of it, and you keep reliving it and reliving it. If I could do one thing for you, I would make you stop doing that. And I'm a work in progress myself. It's always something I'm thinking about. Like, if you can, and I'm going to show you a technique to try to not do that, because it's not productive for you. And to the extent you can not do it, it's better. Other ways we express anxiety: we avoid interactions with other people because we're afraid we're going to be too anxious to do it. And one of my favorites is being anxious about being anxious. So some of you know, last year my daughters got married, and one of my biggest fears was I was going to be sick on their wedding days and I wasn't going to be able to enjoy myself. Didn't happen, but I put in a ton of worry on it. My business partner and best friend said, no matter what happens, you will manage it and no one will know you're sick. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And thank God I wasn't, but it's one of those things where people get worried about being worried. And again, we're going to talk about ways to do it. Oh my God, I'll be so nervous I won't be able to fill in the blank. And so that's something that when you start to do that, as long as you can, and we're going to talk about this, you can find a way to know that you're going to be okay. That really helps diminish any anxiety that you have. So other physical symptoms, and you can probably go along with me: loss of sleep, changes in diet, lack of focus, digestive issues, headaches, all that. Everybody's going, yep. It affects you physically, and the inflammation isn't really great. The more you can not have that going on in your body, the healthier you're going to be. It's easier said than done, but that would be the goal. So what do you do when you're feeling anxious or you're upset about something? This is counterintuitive, and this is like, does this really make sense? But it does. It's called feeling the feels. You acknowledge your feelings, you don't suppress them. If you constantly push things away, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, you're not really solving through it. And it's important that you, in your head, go, okay, I don't feel great right now. I woke up upset. I'm not happy about this. This is how I feel right now. And you acknowledge it and you own it and you live it. And while it doesn't feel great, it's better than continuing to push it off, because you've got a chance of working through things. And I'm going to show you something that I really, that I love. And I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to give you some handouts, by the way, and this will come after, but I'm going to give this to you. And if I were you, I would print it out and put it in your space somewhere. So my daughter sent me this. Note to self: I can allow painful feelings to visit me without allowing them to move all their blank. Thank you, Ellen, for doing that for me. Into my guest room, leave their gross dishes in my sink, and not pay rent. And so take a minute. It's the kind of thing where you can feel a thought that isn't comfortable, and you acknowledge it and you feel it. It's not going to kill you. And once you acknowledge how you feel about it, then sort of the next step is, it's okay. It's okay to not feel okay. If anybody is thrilled right now, I don't know what planet you're on. I mean, it's not great. And by acknowledging it and saying, okay, this is not where I want to be today. We have kids who've lost some internships. We have kids who aren't getting internships, all that stuff. Everybody's worried about graduate. Yeah, okay, it's not great right now, but you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because if you learn how to manage it, then you're never going to be afraid of how you feel. You're never going to be afraid of your feelings derailing you. You're going to know that no matter how bad it is, you're going to get through it. And that was something that was really, really important for me when I was really struggling physically and emotionally. You know, some of you know my husband was in the hospital for 2 months last year. It was very serious. We didn't know what was wrong. It was terrifying. And I had my normal load of my business and work and you guys and all that stuff. So when I got through to the point that I felt like no matter what happened to me, I would be okay, that's when it all got easy. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but at least you kind of go, no matter what, I'm indestructible. And I just bought myself a sweatshirt. I don't know if you ever saw the T-Rex holding the little thing that has teeth on it, and the T-Rex is saying, I'm unstoppable. And that's how I want you to feel, because You all are. You just need to get there in your head. And so once you acknowledge that some days are going to be great, some days aren't going to be great, but you're going to get through it, then you're not afraid of it anymore. And then it makes it a lot more manageable. And so that's really worth working on. And maybe try it with something small, but keep at it, because it's really worth it to get to a place where you can manage it that way. Second, you can ask yourself, what would be the worst thing that will happen? I mean, really, through all this, the worst thing that will happen is we will be several months behind where we thought we would be. And everybody's well, knock on wood right now, you know, all that stuff. But it's just, okay, so we've got a little side jog here. We're going to have to get through it. It's not optimum. You know, to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief, none of you have large families at home who you're supporting. You're in a place in your lives where you don't want to be delayed, but you're going to be okay. And if you're not going to be okay, there's things you can do that will help yourself. So I just want you to think of it that way. Even as bad as it is, we're all gonna do it. And forget about the car commercials. This is a different way of looking at it. Just that if you're not afraid of it, you take away its power. And that's really important. So the other thing is also giving yourself some grace. Like if you're worried, it's okay. You deserve to be worried. It's all right being stopped in your tracks. I'm talking about taking a break and being good to yourself when you need it. And we all express that differently. And also you need to practice your gratitude and self-appreciation. I mean, you came here today, you're still in school. You're not curled up under your bed in a fetal position. You're succeeding. And if you are under your bed in a fetal position, if you've got chocolate, it's all okay. You can do that. It's fine. It's one of those things where, you got up every day. Every day we're still moving forward. And every day we do it is one less day. We have to do it because it's going to go away. For my students in my last 300 class, you did your presentations. You guys rocked those presentations. They were terrific. And we did them with Zoom. I had never worked Zoom in my life. What's Zoom again, right? But we got through it, and you guys did a good job. And you were up to the challenge, and you're up to any challenge. And so take a minute and go, this is good. I'm getting there. You're still doing your other classes. I'm still talking to you guys. It's all good. It's all good. Diet is really important. Chocolate is included, but you have to nourish your body, and that's enough protein, and it's vitamins. If you're having anxiety, and which are anxiety issues that are hitting your gut, I highly recommend magnesium. I take something called Natural Calm. It's fizzy. I take it morning and night, and I feel like $1,000,000. And so vitamin D is important. But you'd have to live in Zaire to get enough vitamin D. Basic vitamins and basic nutrition, it's really important. The better you eat, the better you're going to feel when you're not feeling good. Again, a treat is completely appropriate, but really feed your body in a good way. Regular exercise, you have to exercise. You absolutely have to exercise. I don't care what you do. I'm going to give you a big plug for yoga, but you got to do something, because the more you do it, the better you feel. You're going to have to peel yourself off the couch if you haven't done it yet, but the more you do it, the better you're going to feel. And that was a huge thing for me. Even through the worst of it, I exercised, and I think it made it better. You got to rest too. You lose perspective when you're overtired. We all do. But the more tired you are, the more the world is ending. So get enough rest. If you need to take a nap, do it. If you need to go to sleep earlier, you can't go anywhere, so you might as well go to bed early. That's the case. That just self-care is really important. And in the resources I'm going to send you, there's an article about self-care, like 275 ways you can self-care. And everybody's different, but chocolate is the key. All right, so let's talk about how specifically you can manage your anxiety. Plan and prepare if you can. If you study for a test, you prepare for an interview, you're more likely to do well than if you don't. And the more prepared you are, the less you're going to feel anxious, because you're not going to feel like you're going to make a mistake for no reason. If you make a mistake, it won't be something you could have seen happening. So preparation is really important. And a plan B is really important. There's some things you'll be able to do, some things you won't be able to do. Hey, Romero. But it's important that you have a plan B, particularly now. And here's something else that I really want you to think about. You haven't changed. The world has changed around us for the moment. You are still as smart and as talented and as good as you always were. It's just the world has changed. And pretty soon, we're going to all be back to that. So if you feel like you're the one who suddenly isn't good, you're just serving yourself, because you are. And it's just the external things we can't control that are going on. So some of you who've had internships pulled, it's not because you're stupid, it's not because you're not good, it's because of the companies, and that will come back. If you're good now, I swear on my life, you're going to be good in 8 months or 6 months or 4 months or 2 months. You're going to be the same person and you're still going to be good. So if you keep that in mind and you kind of externalize a little bit what's going on, that's going to help you. That's going to help you. And it's also how you handle negative things that happen. You can go down the rabbit hole and ruminate and, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is the end of the world. Or you can just sort of accept it for the moment, have some grace about it, and get your plan B. We always have to look forward and what are we going to do if it's our plan. But doesn't mean you're not going to take any action. You just won't be stuck in rumination sauce, as I call it. You'll be able to come up with something and you'll get there. And I've had conversations with some of you around these issues, and we're all going to get there, I promise you, no doubt about it. Take a reality check for yourself and be your best friend. Like if you were your best friend, what would you tell you? Sometimes I think of what my best friends would tell me, and I'm like, okay, really? If I was telling somebody was telling my story to me, I'd be like, really, knock it off. You're fine. But it's one of those things where perspective and talking to somebody who you trust and who's got some perspective is really helpful. Somebody who knows you well is really, really good. So there, all those things are things you can do sort of an overall basis to work through something where something's quote happened. But the other things are more around like how you guard your physiology so that it works for you. Breathing is a big thing. It relaxes your body. It works on your brain. I can give you an explanation of why that is if you like. But essentially, it really, really works, and it works to relax you. Did anyone feel a little better after we breathed? Yeah, okay. So you tried it and you see it, and just really adopt it and think of me every time. It'll make me happy. So there's a couple other ways you can breathe. So there's the 4, I did 4-4-6 with you. You could do 4-7-8, and you could do something called kumbhaka that I do in yoga, where you breathe in, you hold it, you breathe out, you hold it. You breathe in, you hold it, and you can, whatever timing works for you. But the direction to your breathing is what really helps you focus and what really helps relax your body, and that's a really good thing. The other thing is mindfulness. Have you guys heard about mindfulness? And everybody's talking about mindfulness now. What that means? That means that if I was mindful, I wouldn't spend an hour a day looking for my freaking phone and then find it on the shelf in the fridge. Mindfulness means I wouldn't have gone into Lifetime a couple weeks ago leaving my car keys on the front seat because I didn't want to be late for yoga. Those kinds of things. And that's something that for me is a constant challenge. I'm here all the time. My kids call it popping. Mom's popping again. So but that's something that mindfulness and focusing on one thing at a time is really important. And that has been, you guys have made me mindful, because when I'm teaching, I can't think of anything else. And so to take a minute and like taste something and think how good it feels. Like when I wake up in the morning, I wake up and I'm like, wow, my bed's nice and soft. I'm in my house. I'm texting with my kids. My husband's around. It's all those kinds of things. And last night I was having chocolate ice cream. Like, this is the best damn chocolate ice cream I've had all week. To really get into what you're doing right now and appreciate it. I look out of my backyard. I'm like, oh, no weeds. Awesome. Whatever it is that makes you happy, people that you really love, to be with people you really love. I often am mindful and grateful when I'm with you guys. I think how lucky I am to have you. And that's one of those things where you have an experience, or when I'm with my friends or my kids, you really, really be grateful for what you have. Claire's boyfriend, I bet you're a very grateful guy. That's all I have to say. It's really take a minute. How lucky you are. You're in college. You have somewhere to live. You have plenty to eat. You have a warm house. That sounds like dumb stuff, but gratitude is a really, really big thing in terms of when everything isn't perfect, take stock of what is perfect and what is good. And that's super important. So the other thing you can do is manifestations and affirmations. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's saying something like to your head all the time. I know I'm going to be a successful X. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to do well on this test. Whatever it is that you've got ahead of you, if you in your head say it, you're much more likely to make it come true than if you are, oh my God, I'm never going to do this. This is the end of it. Oh my God. It's like, really, really make a point of being positive with yourself. It really, really matters. It's very easy when you're feeling down about something to like take one little thing and make everything terrible when it isn't. And that's really an important thing to kind of, direct your energy positively, keep that positive energy up. Super important. The other thing is meditation. And I got to meditation last year. I'd never done it before. And I'm a big fan of it. I'm going to, there's a couple different meditation apps, and I put this in your resources. There's Headspace, there's Calm, there's Insight Timer. I'm a fan of Headspace, and I'm going to show you a little blurb about Headspace. And what this little blurb talks about is not getting into the rabbit hole, not ruminating, letting the thoughts go by without letting them consume you. And let me see, hopefully I can find this. So essentially what it says is you sit back and you watch things go by you. You don't go and get out into the traffic. You go ahead and you let it go by you. And as a result of that, you're not getting involved in it, so involved in your thoughts. And it's a very useful little video, and I'm going to try to find it for you. Here it is. All right, here we go. You guys can see it?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Training the mind is often quite different to how people imagine it to be. Maybe they have an idea it's about stopping thoughts or eliminating feelings, but the reality is a bit different. An easy way to think of it is to imagine yourself sitting on the side of a busy road, the passing cars representing the thoughts and the feelings. All you have to do is to sit there and watch the cars. Sounds easy, right? But what usually happens is that we feel a bit unsettled by the movement of the traffic. So we run out into the road and try and stop the cars, or maybe even chase after a few, forgetting that the idea was to just sit here. And of course, all of this running around only adds to the feeling of restlessness in the mind. So training the mind is about changing our relationship with the passing thoughts and feelings, learning how to view them with a little more perspective. And when we do this, we naturally find a place of calm. Will we sometimes forget the idea of the exercise and become distracted? Of course we will. But as soon as we remember, here we are, back on the side of the road again, just watching the traffic go by, perfectly at ease in both body and mind.
So the other thing that they have, that Headspace has, and there's student versions that are inexpensive, and I think right now you can use it for free, and I would urge you to try something like that, because it really does help. You do what I talked about, where you kind of note your thoughts and you go by, you do a body scan where you think of different parts of your body. As you're focused on your body, you're less thinking about what's going on out here. They also have sleep casts. If any of you have trouble sleeping, they have these stories that you start to listen to. They just knock you out, you know, and there are fanciful stories. I mean, all the meditation apps have that. But if you're having trouble sleeping, either falling asleep or staying asleep, I urge you to give it a go. So let me know what you think about Headspace. The other thing, another technique, and it's a specific anxiety technique, it's called tapping. And I'm not going to show the video. I did the first time, but I'm not going to now. And it's essentially, your body has meridians, and you tap certain parts on your body, and you say, you acknowledge your anxiety and you accept yourself. And it does help. If you're really wound up, it helps. It helps some people, you know, some people will feel silly and they won't do it. But I gave you the connection to it, and you can go ahead and see if it's something you might want to do. At least give it a try. But now I'm getting back to yoga. So as you know, those of you who know me know I'm a big yoga fan. And it's funny because I was a runner and I fell and I broke my shoulder. And so what would somebody do if they fell and they broke their shoulder? Well, you just keep running on it. That's what I did. I mean, it was ridiculous. Even I have to say for myself, it was ridiculous. And so when I started yoga, my friends were like, what? That's ridiculous. My kids were dying. They thought it was hilarious. But I really started doing it, and now I'm very devoted to it. And I promise you, if you start to do it, we were going to do it before we ended up getting quarantined, and maybe we'll try again next semester. But it's really something that is good for your body. It's hard. Everybody thinks it's easy. It is hard. And there's different versions of it. I put in your notes, Yoga with Adrienne, but if anybody wants other connections, I have instructors now who are doing the yoga sculpt, and it's cardio and strength and all those kinds of things like that. So if you want those YouTube names, I'm happy to do it. And so you can do all this stuff on YouTube. Yoga with Adrienne, you can do it for 15 minutes, you can do it for an hour, hard, easy, whatever you like. But I really urge you to stay flexible, and it's a lot about your breathing and really focusing your mindfulness, and it's transformative. It is for me. So here's what I'm going to tell you about all this. It's going to be okay. We're going to talk about the pandemic a little bit. And as I was thinking about it, how it's changed since we first started, a lot of unwords come to my mind, like unfair, uncertain, uncomfortable, unnerving, unforgiving. Anybody want to add one? Anyone?
Unreal.
Unreal, good one. All right, give me two more. Just show me you're alive. Anybody?
Unimaginable.
Unimaginable. Yeah,
Unforgettable.
unforgettable, right?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Right. Anyone else? Fernando, how about you? Oh, Pickard's got one.
Annoying.
Okay. What'd you say?
Annoying.
Annoyed? That's an A, but I'll take it. Pickard, you got one?
I already said I was
Oh, you said one. I
clapping.
thought your
I was
hand went up.
clapping.
Oh,
Unreal, unforgettable, unforgivable.
Okay.
Give me a second, I'll come up with one.
Well, your hand went up, so that's why I asked you. Anybody else?
Unbearable.
Unbearable. Yeah, but we're gonna have to.
Grace.
What did somebody say?
I said that was the one I was gonna say, Grace.
Yeah, it's like why now? Like everybody's like we're all charging ahead with our lives, and it's like the hell, like what is going on? You know, it's just crazy. And what I would tell you is that this is harder for us than a lot of other people because we are high performers and we are doers and questioners. And what do we do when we can't control it? And for a lot of us, I mean, I've been called a control freak. I think it's a compliment, but it doesn't bother me. It's all right. But what can we do when there's nothing to control this? And we do what we can control. And I'm going to show you this. Actually, one of my clients posted this the other day, and I'm going to share my screen. Hang on. Can you guys all see this? You see blue? Okay.
Yes.
So it really talks about how you can go through this and behaviors you can do that will help you. I find that the more I get outside my own head and try to think about other people or try to think about what I can do that's good, it makes me feel better. We all started out hoarding toilet paper, I think. And then now people are like, all right, can I help somebody else? And that's what's really gotten me through it. So this is probably more than you'd want to know, but most of you know that I own a recruiting business and I've been doing this 20 years and I don't really market much. And I'm blessed to have clients like Gallagher and CDW and Univar and Marmon and a lot of really great companies. I've not had a project all year long. So what can you do about it? The companies are not, my clients, the senior people are not thinking about who they're going to hire next. They're thinking about how to keep their current employees safe. They're thinking about laying off their workforce. I mean, I guess that means they're not thinking about me. How could that be? What do you mean? You're not thinking about hiring people, but I'm ready. And there's nothing you can do about that. So what do you do to stay relevant? Every morning I wake up and I figure out who I'm going to text or who I'm going to email. I sent around something funny last week to people. People emailed me back. That LinkedIn post, some of you saw that I did that said we were in business 15 years. Well, let's just say it's close to 15 years, not quite 15 years, but we went ahead and did it. And as of this afternoon, we had 1,500 views. So it's something where you do something that keeps you relevant, keeps you on somebody's screen and made us feel like we were doing something. And so for me, how I manage it, that kind of thing for my business and hanging out with you humans. Some of us have had a lot more time to spend than I normally would have on Thursday afternoon as I run in and run out. And it's been good. It's been good for me. And I hope you've enjoyed it too. I decided I'm going to teach 300 over the summer and I'm going to do a boot camp. And yes, I'm still thinking about 400. It might happen, but spending time with you where I can do some good has been my oxygen. And so you have to think of that to somebody else or to do something for yourself where you're helping your career along. Maybe you're reaching out to somebody or you're learning a new skill or you're reading something like maybe the roadmap or something like that. Something where I know some of you have had on your resume working knowledge of X. Maybe you go ahead and you practice that so you get a more deep knowledge of whatever you were looking for. Maybe you do some market research about people in your career and what those positions look like. There's always something you can do. And from a job search standpoint, there is no reason to stop looking and stop applying. You should absolutely stay relevant. And don't expect somebody to answer you, but be there when they're ready to look. Because as soon as this lifts, people are going to be looking. Everybody's saying it's going to come back quick. I hope that's right. But it's one of those things where there's no reason not to continue to stay in front of people and stay relevant. So that's a really important thing. If you had an internship and it got pulled, continue to reiterate your interest in the company. Continue to stay in touch with those people that gave you the internship. And by the way, you're as fabulous as you were before this. They hired you once. I'm going to bet they're going to hire you again sometime. It's one of those things where, again, you haven't changed, your circumstances have. So do good works for somebody else. Maybe help out a family member, whatever it is. And just do something where you're not just sitting around watching, I don't know what's on TV during the day, other than CNBC, which is what I watch. Like, make sure that you're doing something that's productive. You don't have to be productive every minute, but don't like wither on the vine. There's no reason to. There's things you can absolutely do every day for your career and for yourself and your family that'll keep you going till this nonsense is over. So that's how I would look at it. I mean, if I really got my head around it, I'd be like, wow, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years. What do you mean I don't have any work? That's insane. We never have that, never. But now it's a weird thing. People aren't going to look at. I might go all year with no work. Okay, I won't die. I won't die. I will live off the voluminous salary Dominican pays me. No, I'm just teasing. And we'll be okay. We'll be okay, and you all will too. So that's what I would have to say. So I think you have to take control of your own happiness and control of your own self. And this is a great time to practice some of the things we talked about. Meditation, breathing, yoga, it's all right there for you. And if you want to kickbox, I have YouTube kickboxing classes. I mean, there's plenty of things you can do to keep relevant and to keep yourself going until this is over. And some of you are still working, I presume, you know, but if you're not, sitting at home worrying about the world ending is the wrong way to do it. This is a finite problem. I think, oh, the other thing, did I mention, don't watch the freaking news all day. They had, I don't know if anybody saw this, they had the mayor of Las Vegas on, and she was like completely delusional there, as I could tell. I mean, it was really something to watch. And it was just like, wow. And Anderson Cooper was about to eat her alive. And it was just, whatever the point of it is that you can sit there and get absorbed in all that and the numbers and all that. Watch it 5 minutes a day, get what you need to get, find out what's going to be open, and move on, because the more you watch it, the crazier you get. So just my advice. So, okay, that's kind of what I had to say to you. I'm more than happy to take questions. I'd love to see your faces. If I don't already know you, would you mind sending me an email? It's Lasser, Lasser @dom.edu, and I will make sure that you're on my list for the handouts, because I can't find some of you